let's face it, the Haqqani network is clearly the most notorious out of all the, various components of the Taliban. They have been responsible for attacks on Indian missions in Kabul. They have carried out bombings of the Indian mission. They have carried out kidnappings of Indians. They've carried out not just in Kabul, but attacks on Indian consulates in other Afghan cities. They have been responsible for it. Uh, so, unless you're one of those who believes that a tiger can change his stripes, or a leopard can change his spots, uh, or a wolf can shed whatever they shed. I would not take anything these guys say on face value. Uh, Look, he has denied the patronage of the ISI, which is such a load of rubbish that he's talking about. That has been documented. There are tomes written on it. There are reams, of paper and evidence of their links with the ISI. Uh, you have an eyewitness account, which is a New York Times correspondent who had been kidnapped and who had been in their captivity for I think a couple of years, if I mistake not. And after he was released, in fact, he escaped. He disclosed. He wrote a series of articles explaining what he went through. And out there, he very clearly says what kind of signaling used to happen between the Pakistani security forces and the Haqqanis when they were moving around quite openly. There was checking for everybody, but there were certain signals that when the Haqqanis were traveling, there would be no checking. So there is enough evidence on how their businesses flourished, how they were allowed. For example, when Operation Zarbeaz, which the Pakistanis claim that they cleaned up the terrorist nests in North Waziristan, were happening, before those operations started, the Haqqanis were relocated into other parts of Pakistan tribal agencies. They were moved to Orakzai agency at that point of time.
Right.
So, has anybody heard about the Haqqanis ever suffering from any of the Pakistani military operations? No. So for him to deny that there was no such contacts between these guys and the Pakistani ISI is a load of rubbish. So now they are saying the right things. You can probably argue that, look, they were in a war at that point of time. Now they are moving towards peace. So there are these peace overtures. Okay,
Right.
I'll accept that. But let us see how they operate on the ground. As of now, I don't think they have broken the apron strings or the puppet strings, if you will, of the ISI. In fact, the way they captured Kabul and moved into Kabul was a pure and simple Pakistani demand, because two times in the past, the Pakistanis had been denied access to Kabul. First, in 1992, when the Najibullah government fell and the Mujahideen moved into Kabul against an understanding with the Pakistanis that nobody will move into Kabul at that point of time. And then in 2001, when the Americans had assured them that the Northern Alliance will not enter Kabul, and the Northern Alliance entered Kabul.
Yeah.
And this was the third occasion. And this time they didn't want to take any chances. So when history is written of what happened on 15th of August, you will find out how much the Pakistanis leaned upon the Haqqanis, and in the process riled up many other factions and components of the Taliban when the Haqqanis moved in and took control of Kabul. So, I would say that whatever these guys say, take it with a pinch of salt.
Point taken.
But
tell me, but how do you see things panning out? Because the inevitability is there on the wall that somewhere in the near future there is going to be an interim government or an establishment which is going to be led by the Taliban. Now, whichever faction plays what role is another dynamic altogether. Now, what happens next, and how do you see this playing out? Do you think that there are more voices and more people within the Taliban who now will be pressured into looking at Afghan interests rather than looking at what interests Pakistan? And this tussle will somewhere turn around and they will have to answer the Pashtuns. They will also have to answer this question, and the territorial dispute that the Afghans have is with Pakistanis, not with India. India has never been transactional. Pakistanis will be heavily transactional. They will want to exact a pound of flesh. How do you see the dynamics changing?
So Anand, I think you really, one of the best questions you asked him was on Durand Line. And the fact is that he didn't give you any clear answer, because very clearly, I don't see how anybody in the Taliban ranks, even if it's Haqqanis who are beholden to Pakistan, can just turn around and say that, yes, Durand Line is the official border between the two countries. So he held out on that. Before him, Zabiullah Mujahid was asked a question, and he was very emphatic about the fact that they don't like the fencing which the Pakistanis are doing along the Durand Line, because he said that this interferes with the movement of people. People, on both sides of the fence are families, etc., tribes, and all of that. So yes, this is going to be a problem. Equally, what is going to be a problem is, the Pakistani overbearance and wanting to control what happens in Afghanistan. I think there will be a pushback on that. But we'll have to see whether whatever dispensation comes into Afghanistan now, we know it will be a Taliban dispensation, but how they conduct their, conduct themselves, how they manage their affairs, whether they manage it in the interest of Afghanistan, or they are so beholden to Pakistan that they give in to all the demands of the Pakistanis. I think we'll have to wait and see. We'll also have to wait and see of how the various pulls and pressures within the movement actually play themselves out. But the most important thing from India's point of view is that for now, look, the money which we had to spend in Afghanistan, we have spent. We were not going to get any return from that anyways. If the Taliban or the Afghans want to destroy those projects, just too bad. It's no skin off our nose in many ways. Our primary interest right now is to get our people out. If we can get them out, then we have to decide what is our interest in Afghanistan. We have a larger strategic interest, but that strategic interest is not necessarily served by only engaging with the Taliban or whoever is in Afghanistan. That interest can be achieved in other ways as well. Other than that, I think we need to be very, very cold-hearted and very calculating as to what exactly our interest is in Afghanistan. This whole concept that India will get isolated in Afghanistan, that's again a load of rubbish. You don't get isolated if you're not in a country which produces nothing, which sells nothing, which only has a destabilizing effect. And it's just a 30 million, 35 million strong country, while you are a 1.3 billion economy, which is likely to be the third or the fourth largest economy by the end of the decade. You don't get isolated. So I would really want to challenge anybody who says that we must engage with the Taliban, otherwise heavens are going to fall.
The idea is that we have to then, the strength of our economy, the depth of our, and the width of our population, and perhaps the depth of our abilities, we must try and show to the people, and our concern is the people of Afghanistan. The other aspect is, in terms of humanitarian aid, the only country in this region who can give them humanitarian aid is us. Food grains is us. Any form of non-monetary aid which the people actually need is going to come from India. So somewhere the Taliban running a guerrilla outfit and trying to target certain establishment and fighting a war is different. Running a country, administrating a country is different, and their priorities have to be the people, because they are saying we have done it for the people. So then these are aspects which India will have to play up, and here Pakistan can't do anything. They themselves, they need a prime minister to control the price of roti and naan in their country. What are they going to give the Afghans?
No. Look, in Pakistan, they are having to import wheat and sugar. They are not self-sufficient in even the basic agricultural goods now. They have to import cotton, they have to import wheat, they have to import sugar. Food imports are one of the largest imports in Pakistan. So how are they going to provision for the Afghans? And people very often forget how much of wheat and how much of other foodstuffs were going from India to Afghanistan in the past.